Hey, it's Roy Newgate, and I know it's crazy. We are back again with another new video for I think it's the fifth time in the last 10 days, which is insane considering I probably uploaded 5 times all of last year. But, I finally found that motivation to upload consistently again. And honestly, at this rate, I feel like I could put out 3 videos a week at least. I have so many ideas and so much content that I have lined up that I want to get out. And at this point, it's not even about let's see what happens. It's gonna happen. These videos are getting put out. And I'm kind of excited for the one I have for you today because, of course, for one, it pertains to, or at least partly pertains to one of my favorite characters, as you all know, Zoro, who is one of the main reasons why my channel started to gain traction in the early days. I wanted to talk about Zoro and Luffy specifically and how they may be the key to taking on the world government forces that are approaching the island, Egghead. And I feel like a very significant portion of One Piece has been building up to this tag team, what I consider to be the ultimate tag team in One Piece. Now, Oda has had moments where he could have had these two face off against the antagonists together, but for one reason or another, he's always made sure to separate them or give enough reason for them to not fight together, even if them fighting together would pretty much guarantee a W. So you might ask yourself, why now? Why is this the perfect time? Why has Oda avoided all these circumstances where Zoro and Luffy could have done great things together and waited for this opportunity on Egghead to give them this time to shine together? And if you really think about it, Oda's gone off the script for this arc because typically we have the structure that the arcs follow where the Straw Hats get all their individual fights and, everybody's facing off against different opponents while Luffy goes straight for the big bad. And it's sort of a situation in which they have the time to plan it. They have the time to prepare and get to the places they need to be and see who they need to see. But you know what the one major difference is between this arc and every other arc? Every arc before Egghead, Luffy was not an emperor. Now he's an emperor. Now he has a target on his back that he hasn't had ever before. Going into the raid on Onigashima, Kaido wasn't worried about Luffy at all because he had already dominated him in Curry. It was that kind of perception that the world had, and not just Kaido, but, the Navy and world government and everything, that they didn't have to worry about this kid. That great lack of concern allowed for Luffy and the Straw Hats, as well as the Alliance, to make time and prepare, and to have the raid and, altogether, catch Kaido by surprise, which would set up his eventual victory against him. This time, though, Luffy is suffering from the consequences of his own success. He has made it so far up that now he's the one that people are after. He's the one that the world government has set their eyes on. So in a sense, in Onigashima, they took the raid to the enemy, but this time the raid is coming directly to them. And they had no idea and no clue and no time to prepare at all. I don't even think they have any idea that Kizaru is coming for them directly. They certainly don't know about the Gorosei member tagging along with him. They don't even know who he is actually and what he can do. And we'll touch on that in the next video. I don't want to speak too much on Saturn now because I have so much to say on him and the other Gorosei after this video. So we'll save all of that for later. So Luffy and Zoro and Wano learned what they needed to learn to get to the level that they're at right now. So even though they're about to get blindsided by these world government forces, they'll be ready. They'll be ready to take them on and give them what they got because it's not just about not knowing what they're up against. I don't think the world government knows what they're up against. They don't know how powerful these two awakened conquerors are. Now, I know going into the final saga, everybody has this idea that when the Straw Hats and everybody take on the world government and the Navy, there'll be time to get these matchups straight. But I don't think so. I think things will be coming at them so fast that they'll have to make do with what they have and what circumstances they're in specifically for each moment, because the final war is here. It's not next week. It's not going to be, a month from now or anything like that. Like Eiichiro said, he'll take on whoever's coming for them and destroy all of them. So Eiichiro and everybody's ready to go right now. So it may not be a case where all the admirals are taken down all at the same time. It may be the case where Kizaru maybe goes down this arc. I don't think that's crazy. I think something like that could possibly happen given the nature of where things are right now. So let's talk a little about how we reached this potential tag team between Zoro and Luffy and all the moments that Oda had the chance to have these two team up, but he just didn't do it, or the moments that he did have them team up and they accomplished something. Going back to the very first time that Zoro and Luffy met each other, they were able to take on Axe Hand Morgans and his forces and just overwhelm them. And this was pretty much, to me, Oda saying that these two are a dangerous tandem. Sure, Axe Hand Morgans wasn't exactly formidable and his crew was kind of weak, but I still feel like Oda was telling us, watch out for these two. And there were a lot of moments where Zoro and Luffy knew they could team up, but they didn't because they wanted to accomplish something on their own, because they had respect for each other's power to the point that they want to see each other succeed and don't want to interfere in moments that they wanted to improve for themselves, on an individual basis. sometimes that isn't always the case. Sometimes there are crucial needs for everybody to, put their power together and accomplish what needs to be accomplished. On Egghead, it's something completely different where they absolutely have to combine their power and watch each other's backs in every single moment. Let's look at Punk Hazard when they teamed up together and accomplished what they needed to and took down the dragon. Now, the dragon wasn't that serious of a threat, but that moment did show the mutual trust and respect that they have for each other in these moments where they know that there's some things that they need each other for. There was also Eni's lobby where they were on the sea train and they were able to do a combined attack kind of similar to what Big Mom and Kaido did. And then you have moments where there was the opportunity for them to fight together, but Oda decided on a completely different path, and the path that Oda decided on was vital for the plot. The first example I can think of is Dressrosa, where Zoro and Luffy may have fought Doflamingo together if it was not for Law being there and for the fact that Oda set up stuff like the birdcage to keep Zoro and other people away from Doflamingo while Law and Luffy were fighting against him. Now, Mihawk, around the time he defeated Zoro, said that these two make a great team, and perhaps too good to the point that Oda does this. He keeps them away from each other in moments where they might be too much for the enemy to handle. So, as far as Law and Luffy versus Doflamingo goes, I think that is twofold in that Law fought Doflamingo with Luffy because that's where his plotline was. That's where his story was tied in. And that's what will put him on a map in the story of the One Piece. The other side, I think, is if Zoro and Luffy were to team up against Doflamingo, I think it would have been over far quicker. And there's multiple reasons for that. One is the fact that Zoro didn't even get to use his strongest technique until the rooftop, until he faced up against Kaido. Imagine he would have been able to use Ashura against Doflamingo. If it did what it did to Kaido, imagine what it would have done to Doflamingo. It's not just that one attack though. I think Zoro was more prepared to fight alongside Luffy at that time for multiple reasons. I believe that his attack power overall may have been stronger. He may have been better in endurance, stamina, and various other factors that would have made the tag team far too much for Doflamingo to handle. You look at Wano Act 1 and Zoro got lost for absolutely no real reason. Nothing that we could say makes sense other than Zoro's getting lost just to get lost. Initially, they fought alongside each other against Hawkins' men and, some people in Curry, but then Oda just removed Zoro out of the scene for, again, another couple of reasons. The first being that Zoro himself had to meet people in Wano. He had to know why he was fighting and who he was fighting for to gain the motivation he needed for Onigashima. And of course, he had to meet Hiyori in order to get Enma, which was vital for his growth as well. But also, Zoro had to be away from Luffy so Luffy could get dominated to the point that he would be forced to grow and take strides like he's never taken before. Now, I'm not saying it would have made much of a difference if Zoro was there with Luffy in Act 1, but this had to be personal for Luffy. This had to be something that frustrated Luffy so much to the point that he would figure things out for himself. And now on Egghead, he has it all fully figured out, or pretty much anyway. And now he has the tools to take on whatever forces he needs to take on. Zoro as well though. Zoro also gained Conqueror's Haki in Wano. Specifically Conqueror's Haki coding, which is the strongest ability in One Piece as far as Haki and overall power goes. And I feel like Zoro specifically might be a bit underestimated right now by not just the community, but the world government. I don't think they have any idea how strong he is. Now, I said they may be underestimating both, but Luffy is not as underestimated as Zoro is right now. They know Luffy's an emperor. They know he's on that level. He may be a bit stronger. Zoro, though, is an awakened conqueror who defeated a Lunarian, who scarred Kaido and has been working on mastering Enma, and I believe he has it mastered by now. And his Conqueror's Haki coding might be so strong to the point that a 1 billion berry bounty just doesn't make any sense for him. So it really does make you think just how strong are these guys. They had 2 weeks with these new abilities, so they must have made a lot of strides. Touching again on what they're going up against, they're facing a Gorosei member, Kizaru, and 100 marine ships. Just think of all the potential abilities and techniques that they could maximize to take on these forces. For the marine ships in particular, I think we could see something where they both use Conqueror's Haki consciously to knock out a large portion of those forces. We've never seen Zoro do it consciously. We've seen him do it in the middle of trying to sustain Enma, but at this point, he should already know, I have Conqueror's Haki. I can just knock out a whole bunch of fodder in an instant and not even have to fight them. One thing I really want to see is a combined attack from these two. We haven't seen them use Conquerors a single time this arc, and maybe that's why. Maybe that's what Oda's building up for. He wants to have these two use it together and overwhelm the enemy forces. Even when they had the tag team attacks with Kako and Lucci, they used weaker forms and weaker attacks. Luffy used Gear 4. Zoro used Onigiri. So this might be setting up for something way bigger, and I just absolutely cannot wait to see what happens. But those were all my thoughts on why I think Zoro and Luffy will be the key to defeating these world government forces. But tell me what you think. How do you think the Straw Hats will deal with Kizaru, Saturn, and his massive fleet they have behind them? Comment all of your thoughts down below, but also don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for more videos like this.